Hello everyone, and welcome to my second Gnomon DVD. This DVD will be covering painting human skin in Mari 2.0, and I will be going through the entire process from UVing the character all the way to final maps. So the first thing I want to do is give a big thank you to Stephen Lord, who was gracious enough to loan me this model that you see here. He is a phenomenal modeler, so if you're not familiar with his work, I recommend you check him out online. He's just one of the best out there. So Stephen, thank you. So here's the model, a female bust. So the first thing we're going to be doing is UVing. Now in the past, Gnomon hasn't really done, to my knowledge, texture titles that has had emphasis on UVing. And for me, I'm a huge advocate for texture painters doing their own UVs. Now, this wasn't always the case. Back in the day, I was at studios that had modelers doing all the UVs, so it kind of wasn't in our responsibility. However, having gone to a studio that mandates texture painters to do their own UVs, it really opened up the world to me. And I'm adamant on texture painters doing their own UVs because they can organize it the way they want. They can designate the proper amount of resolution to areas that they want, and it makes the process a lot easier instead of the back and forth. So there are two tools that I use to UV characters. At work and sometimes at home I'll use UV layout, but for this demo I'm going to be showing you guys a program called Unfold 3D, and it's a phenomenal tool for UVing organic objects. And the solver is one of the best out there. It's besides some of the proprietary tools I've used. In my experience, Unfold 3D really is one of the best. So let's dive in. So here's the program. Now I'm not going to cover everything in here because quite frankly I don't use everything in here. But I'm going to show you very quickly how I go through UVing a character's head, and the whole goal is to get in and out of this program and on a painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is load the object, and I'm going to find it right here. So the navigational tools in this program is quite a bit different than what you would be used to. If you guys decide to use this program at home, you can kind of follow along. So traditionally you'll be using Control or Alt or sometimes Shift with the mouse button to drag and pan and rotate and zoom. But in Unfold, all you use are the mouse buttons, left, middle, and right. So if I hold down left and drag, it'll pan. If I hold down middle mouse and drag up and down, it'll zoom, or you can scroll it in, like so. And if I hold down right, it'll rotate. So very, very simple and intuitive. Very easy. So for this character, we're going to treat her, and I'll go more into depth about this later in Maya, but we're going to treat her as if she's a hero character. So we're going to do hero UVs, as I like to call them. And these are basically UVs that are cut a lot more than you would typically do for a digidouble or background character. So you're going to get more real estate, more UV cuts, more islands, so you can get more resolution. So let's dive into cutting this thing up. So if you hold down Tab, it's going to bring up a wheel, and these are selection modes: face, vertice, island, and edge. I only use island and edge when I'm cutting UVs in this program, so I'm not going to dive into these because I honestly don't really use them. So if I click the island one and shift click, it's going to select the entire island, and obviously I haven't cut anything up yet. So if I hold down spacebar, tap spacebar, it deselects. So I'm going to go back to edge mode, and there are two ways to select edges in this program which I really love, and they're controlled by two hotkeys. If you hold down V, just tap V, or tap B. So V is in Victor, B is in Bob. So if I tap B and I hold down Alt, and you just drag your mouse, you don't have to select anything, you can see it's doing an edge loop. And this is a really powerful tool, which I really like. You can hit spacebar to deselect. So for the time being, I'm going to do the B edge loop selection tool, and I'm just going to find an edge at the neck that's right around the crease of the neck towards the chin, and I'm happy with that. I'm just going to select that and hit C for cut. And there you go. You get a nice representation of where you cut. And so from here I'm going to cut the back of the head like so. Cut that again. And then in the UV tab here, I'm going to hold down tab and go to island selection and shift select the neck and just hit U for unfold. And voila. Very, very quick. And this is one of the paramount reasons I use this program, is because it's just incredibly quick to solve and it's really good. So now I want to move this around. Best way to do that is, again, hold down tab and you're going to have a new set of selections. If I select in this icon here and drag, it's going to rotate like so. If I select in this tab here, it's going to translate left and right, or if I can hold down the middle, I can translate anywhere I want. And these are scales, and I don't use these ever in Unfold because I'm going to scale and scale things uniformly later in Maya. Right now I'm just worried about cutting and unfolding. So just move that out of the way. So there we go. There's the neck. Next thing we're going to do is cut up the ears, and these are notoriously complicated depending on topology. And as you can see, the closest edge loop here is right there for topology. And if I hit F, it's going to frame on the selection. And as you can see, it's going way too far out. I'm going to do that again. So it's going way too far out, and it's not ideal for me. I really want to try to keep it as close to the ear as possible. So traditionally, this would be kind of a pain to do because the topology isn't ideal around the ear. So I'm going to hit V for Victor, and it's going to change my selection mode. And as you can see, selection tool mode, shortest path. And you're going to see how this works right now. So if I hold down Alt and select an edge, click it, and just drag my mouse, you can see it's finding the shortest distance between the two edges. Click again, and boom. So this is a really powerful tool that I use all the time for scenarios like this, because it allows me to very quickly select kind of a nasty area. I'm not so worried about how this is selecting because, again, in Mari, we're not really worried about seams. They're easy to paint out and avoid. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut that. Go back to Island, select the ear, and unfold. So let's examine this ear for a second. So if you can see, we're getting some red area here, and that's indicating where it's kind of stretching. Now, depending on the model of the ear, sometimes I like to cut down the spine of the ear here and unfold it to get more uniformity. But at this point, I think I'm going to leave it, and I'll show you why. If I select this textured icon here, it's going to bring up a checker grid that I can scale up in the texture tile to the right down here, and I can get a better idea of what's going on. And as you can see, the stretching actually isn't so bad. It's not that obscene, and in fact, I'm going to leave it because I know later I'm going to want this spine to be the center of this island, because it's going to make it easier for me to paint masks and certain things that I want later on down the line. So for all intent and purposes, I'm going to leave it. I'm happy with this. So I'm going to go to the other ear and do the same process. So I'm just going to Alt select, frame this a bit better. Select, and just go all the way around the ear like so. Very quick. I'll cut that, grab the island, and unfold it. Let's move this off to the side. So next I want to focus on the eye, the inner eye bags and the nose and the mouth. Get those out of the way because those can be kind of a pain if you don't do that in the beginning. Just going to find some edge loops here. I'm happy with those. Cut those. Grab the islands, unfold them, and do the same thing with the nostrils. and the lips. Now if I click this icon here, it's going to show me the wireframe, so I can easily see what I'm selecting, which is really nifty and handy. And I'm happy with that, so I'm going to cut these. Select these islands and unfold them. As you can see, this process is very quick. The solver is incredibly fast, and it's just really easy to use. So now we're kind of home free. I'm going to cut up the rest of the head here. Start with the back. And I'm going to go about it up here. Again, this is really just arbitrary. I'm just trying to find areas that I want to cut and regionalize a bit. And just my personal preference, I like to cut this up one more time just because I don't like the kind of bold stretching that's happening there. So I'm just going to cut it up again and solve it. It's a bit better. I mean, I could have left it. It would have been fine because it's the back of the head and you're probably going to have hair, but it's just kind of a personal preference. I like to do it when I can and keep things uniform. So now I'm going to move on to the forehead. Zoom in here a bit. Good. As you can see, the reason I cut those eye bags first is so I can do this forehead a lot easier. And I'm going to grab that and unfold. Happy with that. I'm going to check the forehead later towards the end to see if the stretching is minimal enough that I'll leave it. Because right now, I think it'll be okay. So let's go to the lower mouth. And cut that. Unfold. And there's quite a bit of stretching here. So I'm actually going to go and cut this one more time right down the center. Unfold that. So that's better. So as you can see, once you understand the hotkeys and this little tool palette with the tab key, things just fly really quickly. And it makes UVing fun and easy and painless. So I'm going to cut it right down the center because this is the most organic shape of the face, especially with the nose. That from previous experience I know that's where I usually cut things, and I get the best coverage and uniformity this way. Because the most notorious spot on the face is the nose, trying to get that uniform. Because so often you'll paint textures and it just gets stretchy and blurry, and because there's just not enough resolution because it's not solved properly. And as you can see, within about 10 minutes we have full UVs. So let's check them out, see how we did. Up these tiles. And yeah, I'm happy with this. Forehead is totally fine. I'm going to leave that. It'll be nice to have that full area in the UV view in Mari. And the nose is great, perfectly uniform. Ears are not so bad, and yeah, I'm happy with this. So we're done. So I'm going to save this as a new version. And from here, I'm going to leave the UVs as is. I'm going to bring this into Maya, and then we're going to possibly cut this up even more in Maya and then organize UVs and move things around. And I'll touch upon texture resolution and organization of UVs and all that. So stay tuned.